Hi everyone, welcome back to Self-Care Sunday. This is episode 14, I believe. So here we go. Today we're going to do a little virtues practice and then we're going to move into a requested meditation. So that should be good. It'll be another guided imagery meditation, so if you'd like to stick around for that, I'd love for you to join me. So before we start our little family virtues virtue of the week, I just wanted to give a little shout out to anybody who is a mother and is celebrating Mother's Day today. But I also would like to give a shout out to all of the individuals who are having a hard time on this day. Mother's Day isn't a super special, wonderful day for everybody. For some people it's really challenging. So if you're in that space right now, I see you. And if you know somebody who might be in that space, just take a minute and think in your brain, okay, who do I know who might be having a challenging day today? And it might be nice just to reach out and check in on them and just see how they're doing. Hopefully they're doing well, but if they're not, you can try to be there for them. That's just my little thoughts on that. Okay, the virtue of the day is honestly one that I almost skipped for a variety of reasons. The first one, because I think that it's so connected to religion in a lot of people's minds that they immediately shut it down before they even give it a chance. And while I want this space to be very open, and I'm not going to push any specific religion or talk about any specific religion during this portion, it is something that affects a lot of people's lives. So just as a nebulous, this virtue is related, but maybe give it a chance anyway. Because it's also not related in a lot of ways. So anyway, I am going to stop rambling about that. If you have any thoughts on the virtue today, please leave them below in the comments. If you have any experiences with this virtue, please leave them below, because it's one that I have been trying to figure out for quite a while. So yeah, help me out. We're learning together. So this virtue of the week is faithfulness. Yeah, that's the one. Faithfulness. So what is faithfulness? Faithfulness is being true to someone or something. It is holding to what you believe. It is holding to what you believe is important, no matter what happens. Faithfulness is belief that stands up to the test of time. It is starting out on a path and staying on it no matter how many times you stop or get distracted. Faithfulness is being like a rock in the midst of rushing waters. You stand firm no matter what. It comes from really knowing and living what you believe. When you are faithful, you can be counted on and trusted. You show up when you said you would show up. You keep your commitments regardless of what you would rather do. Faithfulness is needed when you have beliefs and principles that can't be proven to others. If you are faithful to your beliefs, such as a belief in God, a belief in honesty, or friendship, others can see your values in the way that you act. So that's the little definition, and now we'll move on to why practice faithfulness. When people don't show faithfulness, they say one thing and do another. One day they believe something, and the next day they believe something else. You never know what they believe. They probably don't even know what they believe either. You can never count on them for anything. They say they will be somewhere, but then if something distracts them, they don't show up. They change their minds a lot. You never know where they stand, so people stop trusting them. When people are faithful, you know what they stand for and you can trust them. You see their beliefs in their lives. You can count on them to keep their agreements. When people are faithful, they get things done regardless of distractions that come up. They are faithful friends. How do you practice it? Being faithful means that you keep your promises. You only make agreements that you can keep. You walk your talk. If you say that you will do something for someone else, you do it even if you feel like doing something else instead. To do a job faithfully means that you do it with as much excellence and precision as you can. and you do it on time. You practice faithfulness by learning and questioning and finding answers about your beliefs. As you grow in your beliefs, you practice them as faithfully as you can. I like that it says you question and find answers about your beliefs. So it's not just like, oh, I believe this one thing and I'm going to stay with that course forever regardless of any new information that I get, right? It's about trying to figure out what your beliefs are and then like question them and figure them out in detail so that you can stay true to them. Listen to your heart when things come up to test your faith. Faith is not really faith unless it is tested. Your faith gets stronger when your beliefs are tested and you still find that they are true. When you are faithful in relationships, you are loyal. You don't talk about someone behind their back. When you feel mad or hurt, you go to them and talk about it privately. You don't leave an old friend when a new one comes along. And then last little bit here, we're going to move on to signs of success and the affirmation. Signs of success. Congratulations, you are practicing faithfulness when you listen to your heart and when your beliefs are tested. Only make promises you can keep. When you make sure your words and deeds match. When you keep agreements. Do a job carefully and fully as it needs to be done. When you're loyal to your friends and family. When you clear up problems face to face. Keep trying when you don't believe that anything is important. Accept a belief without thinking for yourself. Change your beliefs just because they are tested. Say one thing and do another. Talk about people behind their backs. Don't keep your commitments and do a quick or sloppy job. The affirmation for today is, I am faithful to what I believe. I am a faithful friend. I do not backbite. I clear up problems face to face. I keep my promises. I walk my talk. So, that's on faithfulness, which I think it's really interesting that it is present in so many forms of our in so many places in our lives, but when I look it up, it's almost always connected to religion. But it's not solely connected to religion. Like, there's so many reasons that we should use faithfulness, and there's so many other virtues that are involved in faithfulness. So if you have any comments about that, or any experiences, whether they're connected to religion or not, drop them below. I'd love to hear about them. This is something that I'm going to be exploring this week. In a similar vein, if you had any experiences with excellence from last week, also comment them down below. I was practicing excellence this week in watercolor. I've been working on this painting for 2 weeks, which I'm not ready to share yet, but I might at some point. And it was huge. It was the biggest watercolor painting I've ever done. It was very, very large. And that took a lot of practice to continue pushing through and to continue working with excellence to make that painting the best that it could possibly be. And I've kind of let it sit for a couple days at this point, and I'm not sure. I may or may not add few more little details. But it was also pretty amazing that when I pushed myself outside of my comfort zone and I did something that was different than I typically do to practice excellence, I actually did a lot better than I thought that I would. I was really like, oh, whatever happens, happens, but I'm just gonna try my best and see what happens. I think it turned out fairly well. I am happy with it. So that's another thing. There are areas of that painting that I would like to practice and do again so that I can continue to perfect that version of excellence in my artwork. But that was one thing that I was working on with excellence this past week. So let me know what you were practicing with excellence. Okay, good. We're gonna move on to our little meditation, and this one was a request from a friend, a very lovely friend, and I really liked it. So we're gonna go ahead. I'm gonna start with kind of a little I'm gonna call it a clearing practice. We're gonna start with a clearing practice, and then we'll move into the meditation portion of the evening. So I want you to find a spot where you are comfortable to sit or lay down. I I suppose you could stand too. That's not something that I have the capacity to do for very long, but if that's comfortable to you, do it. So go ahead and find a spot. And one of the things that I like to do for my kind of clearing, some people like to sage their environment or clean their environment, but I find that just spending a little bit of time with my body is sometimes just as good. So I like to imagine that there is a color, a peaceful or happy color, could be joyful, could be calming. Just find a color that you really enjoy and imagine it in your space around you. Sometimes it helps to imagine it kind of like above you. And as you have this color that really brings you a little bit of joy or peace or comfort, I want you to think about what kind of things are going on inside of your body. Are there shapes or colors inside of your body that represent emotions? Maybe it's just feelings. But for me, I often find that there's like some color or some shapes. And if those are in a good spot right now and you're okay with keeping them, do so. But if there's some colors and shapes and emotions and feelings or thoughts that you would like to let go of and let them come outside of your body, I'd like you to breathe in. Take a deep breath and breathe in the color that's outside of you. And breathe out what's going on within. So breathe in the color that's outside. And breathe out what's happening within you. We'll just do this a couple more times. And sometimes it helps to imagine the color that's outside of you kind of glowing. A lot of people like to use kind of like a golden light. Just imagine like you're bathed in that color and inside and out. It's coming in, kind of resetting where you're at. And that's kind of a really easy way to just sort of take a second, take a couple deep breaths. And I find that the imaginative aspect of that kind of helps me really feel more centered. It gives me something to focus on, if that makes sense, other than just breathing. So now we're going to move on into our guided imagery meditation for the evening. And the request was hiking through the mountains. So before we start our hike through the mountains, I want you to take a look at the mountain ahead of you. And I want you to imagine that you're at the bottom of the mountain. And just take a look. How big is the mountain? Is it a really, really big mountain? Is it fairly small? What does the mountain seem like? Kind of think about what path you might take up the mountain. And once you've got a good visual of what that mountain looks like, I want you to take a moment to reflect on who you are and what you are at the bottom of the mountain. Do you want to be a person? Do you want to be yourself? Or do you want to be an animal? Sometimes I find that picking a being other than yourself really helps you explore the freedom of moving through spaces in a different way. So maybe you want to be a monkey or a little bug or a bird or whatever, doesn't matter. Pick something that you want to be. And think about how it feels to be that creature. Think about what kind of limbs it has, what kind of senses it has. Does it have any different senses than you? What might those be like? And then I want you to do a couple of warm-up circles at the bottom of the mountain. So go ahead and move around at the bottom of the mountain. Maybe you need to stretch a little bit. Maybe you need to get used to some new appendages that you have. However you need to get ready to climb this mountain, go ahead and do so. Okay, now that you have a good idea of what kind of creature you are, we can go ahead and start climbing the mountain. So pick a trail, kind of at the bottom of the mountain, and see, is it a trail that people have been on before, or creatures have been on before, or not? Take a look at it, and when you're ready, you can go ahead and start climbing the mountain. Maybe this means that you're flying through the trees, above the trees. Maybe this means you're walking on a path. Maybe this means that you're swinging from tree to tree. However you want to start climbing, go ahead. We're just going to climb the path for a little while and really get in the rhythm of that movement. And if you need to actually do this in your space as a part of the meditation, absolutely do so. If you have a safe space to do that, go for it. Pretend you're this creature. What kind of rhythm do they move with? Is it fast? Is it slow? And once you feel like you've got that rhythm, I want you to focus on whatever you are touching. So think about, if you're a monkey, what do the branches feel like as you're grabbing the branches? If you're a person walking, what does it feel like as your boots hit the ground? Or are you barefoot? If you're a bird, what does the wind feel like as it's pressing on your wings? Is there kind of like updrafts? What is touching you, and what does it feel like as you are moving with this rhythm? Can you hear the rhythm? Maybe wings flapping, crunching. What does the rhythm sound like? And once you've been moving through the mountains for quite a while, I want you to take a little moment to rest. So go ahead and take a moment to find a spot to stop. And take a look around, see how far you've come. Are there any other things happening on the mountain? Is it pretty barren? Do you hear other animals or other people? What kind of things do you hear? You can go ahead and take a look around too. Maybe try to look for some of those things that you hear. Can you see those things too? And once you feel like your break has kind of come to an end, you can go ahead and return to that rhythm as you're climbing the mountain. Does your rhythm have to change at the next part of the mountain for some reason, or can you just keep going? By this point, you're pretty far up into the mountain, and you're starting to feel the air get a little bit cooler and a little bit denser. And suddenly you realize that there is some sort of fog, because you have come so far up the mountain that you are kind of in the clouds. So as we continue moving, you kind of can't see as much, so I want you to think about, what can you hear? What can you smell? And you know that you're going to make it to the top of the mountain, and that in a little while the clouds are going to clear. So keep following a smell or a sound, maybe a feeling. And you make it through the clouds. And by this point, you're a good way up the mountain. So if you want to stop, you've come to a creek, and you're going to have to cross the creek. But first I want you to interact with it in some way. Maybe you need to take a sip of the water. Maybe you want to stick your hand or your foot in the creek. However you want to interact with it. Maybe you even want to swim or take a bath or splash yourself. However you want to interact with the creek, go ahead and do so. And once you've had a little bit of time with the water, I want you to thank it and continue on. You can get across the water by swimming or walking through it or going over stepping stones, or maybe there's a bridge. However you need to get across the creek, go ahead. Pick a way to get across. And I want you to feel the way that the movement is as you're crossing the creek. Do you need to jump? Do you need to walk? Do you need to crawl or swim? What does that movement feel like? And when you're on the other side, you're really close to the top of the mountain. And at this point, you can either just know the way or you can see a little sign. And I want you to think about a name for the place that you're going. There is a place that I've been before called Inspiration Point. I know a couple of friends love that place too. Inspiration Point is what I'm going to call mine. So go ahead, pick a name, whatever you want to name it. And you're going to go down a little side trail. I want you to reach out, and if there's any, maybe it's a rock wall, maybe it's trees, maybe it's leaves, maybe it's bark. Whatever it is, reach out and feel that as you keep going down this little side trail. And then you're going to come to a clearing where you're going to see that you have made it to the top of the mountain. And go ahead and look out over the edge of the point. You can stand back as far as you want, you're safe. But you can see everything from up here. What do you see? What is around this mountain? what does it mean to have climbed this entire mountain today? How does that feel? How does the experience of climbing an entire mountain feel to you? Does it feel empowering? Does it feel exhausting? Maybe both? And look out over the horizon. And by this point, you've spent all day climbing this mountain, so you can go ahead and sit down on a rock or the ground or wherever. Maybe there's a little bench. Maybe you brought a camp stool. Go ahead and look out over the horizon. And the sun begins to set. What kind of colors do you see in the sunset? The oranges and pinks, maybe blues and purples. What kind of colors do you see? And what is the light doing? Is it coming through clouds? Is it just straight on? How does the sun look? You're not gonna go blind by looking into the sun, don't worry. Or alternatively, if looking at it is not something that feels comfortable to you or you're able to do, go ahead and think about how that feels. Maybe you feel wind. Maybe you feel the warmth of the sun rays as it's beginning to cool down. Maybe you start hearing creatures like crickets come out because it's beginning to get closer to dusk. And go ahead and watch the sunset until it goes all the way down over the horizon. And for a little while, it's kind of this in-between twilight where you can still kind of see things, but not really. And then you start to see one star, and then another, and then another, and then another. And over the next little while, you begin to realize that there are just so many stars above you. And if you want to find a constellation, you can. If any of these stars have meaning to you, feel free to connect to that. And just look at the stars. Take a look at the sky. Do you see any moon or planets? Maybe you see something like the northern lights. What kind of things do you see in the sky? How does the air feel now that it's night? What is the surface that you're sitting on like? And when you've taken a little bit of time to experience the top of the mountain and the stars and what the whole day was like, you can choose now whether you want to hike back down the mountain or find a little nook to sleep in for the night. Maybe set up a campsite, because you're getting pretty sleepy. Maybe you just want to lay down and sleep directly under the stars. Choose a way to find a comfortable spot or a comfortable rhythm. And you can either drift off to sleep, or you can feel yourself as you hike back down the mountain and return home. And take a couple deep breaths. And when you're ready, you can begin to wiggle your fingers and your toes. And feel what you're sitting on or standing on or laying on. What kind of surface are you actually on here? And you can open your eyes. And welcome back. Yeah. Thanks for joining me today. I will see you all next week. I hope you have a lovely evening and that you got a little bit of time to relax and enjoy. Okay. I love you all. Good night.